When you really take a moment to think about it, this episode of Demi-chan is very similar to the Duohand episode with Machi and how we found out about her condition and how she operates in everyday life. This episode is very similar to that episode, but there is some very distinct differences between the two characters. Obviously, Machi is a Duohand, which has its own separate issues with everyday life, and Yuki, a snow woman, has her own set of issues. She's a different Demi, and so obviously her condition is completely different compared to what Machi's is. So obviously there is some core differences here, but overall when you look at it, some of the things that, Machi was facing is kind of very similar to what Yuki was facing in this episode. Now, talking about the actual differences between these two, what was going on with Machi with how she was constantly struggling in everyday life, of how, if you were to walk down the street and you had to carry, your head in one hand while carrying a bag, that would obviously put you in a very dangerous position because you could accidentally drop your head, you'd have to be careful because something had happened, and you could cause major harm to yourself. So Machi has had this condition all her life, and overall from what we found out with that episode was that she's kind of learned to get used to it. It doesn't really bug her much anymore because she has learned to just accept what she is, and she understands what the difficulties of being a Duohan. It doesn't really bug her much, but that is one of the issues that she has as a person. And instead of it being just on the physical sense, which was mainly what was going on with Machi, what we have with Yuki in this episode is in the mental sense. For instance, Yuki, in this entire episode, she didn't want to get close to anyone because she felt like she would hurt someone. She felt like if she was to get close to anyone, she might freeze them, cause major harm to them, and she didn't want that at all. She cares about people, and she doesn't want to have anyone get hurt because of her. And she had a very terrifying experience when she was sitting in a bath and she was getting scared. Eventually, this water turned to ice, and it terrified her because how could, water that's very hot turn to ice with a snap of fingers? That sounds ridiculous. It's something that's completely crazy, and if you could do something like that to something that's that hot in an instant, obviously, imagine what you could do to a person. You would, completely freeze them over and probably kill them. And so, Yuki was terrified of herself, and she didn't want to harm anyone. So that is why she constantly distanced herself away from everyone. Any time someone tried to get close to her, try to talk to her, she wouldn't really communicate with them or hang out with them because she wanted to distance herself from them for they would not be hurt. And so, in this sense, though, with the outcome of the episode, we do know that majority of it was thanks to being inside of her head. It wasn't actually anything that was really major. She wouldn't have harmed anyone at all, but it was still interesting to see how a lot of her problems was thanks to actually her wanting to just protect people, make sure nobody gets hurt. And at the end of the day, I really respect the Sensei for actually kind of diving into Yuki's problems and what really plagues her mind and what causes her to be like that throughout the entirety of what we've seen so far from the series. With the Sensei going out of his way to examine different stories about snow women and finding out how sad their lives are and how sad these stories are, it leads into a lot of conclusions about maybe what is really going on with snow women. When they tend to be nervous, when they have these negative emotions, that is when ice tends to come out. For instance, cold sweat. And I do like that play on words and stuff because of cold sweat. It's something I think we've all heard before, like, oh, you got cold sweat and all that, that person's in cold sweat, and it actually plays a huge part with Yuki, and how when she is nervous and when she starts to sweat, her sweat turns automatically into ice, especially tears, which explains how tears work. For instance, you can have tears of joy, and you can have tears of sadness. And in this case, every time Yuki ever cried, it was thanks to because of her being sad. And she stated to the Sensei, like, every time I cry, my tears automatically are completely ice. I don't think too much about it. My tears are automatically ice, and that's just, what I think is going on. And what really led the Sensei into kind of diving into what was going on here was thanks to that right there. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, okay, so if her tears turn to ice, does that mean that her other parts of her body fluids, for instance, like her sweat, would that also turn into ice if she was upset or nervous in loneliness? And what given this conclusion was thanks to the stories, finding out all the stories with snow women tend to be very sad. And then this is when we saw these things with snow women, how they constantly had like ice come out of them, or how they had this chill all the way around them. It was thanks to these emotions they had in certain love stories that wrap around them. So thanks to Sensei is why she was able able to overcome her past, but also move on forward and accept who she is. And I really like the life lesson in this series. I really do. I mean, it's not even just about demis anymore. It's not just about, like, you know, demi-humans and all that type of stuff of how they're completely different from normal humans. There's a bigger lesson here with this series, and it's that everybody is different. Everybody has to overcome their own problems in life, and you gotta realize that there's different things that really bog down a person, and sometimes they might need an extra push to put them on the right path. It's what you saw from Sensei, and how he gave Yuki that little boost to allow her to accept who she is, and also to finally open up and gain friends, and being able to go out of her way to spend time with them after school. So, the Sensei, I'm gonna say it's probably gonna be hard for him to be beat this year for Best Sensei Award of 2017. Just for that alone, that was amazing seeing that man go out of his way to do that much research for her. That's a really good man, and that is a teacher I wish, you know, anyone could possibly get. I mean, imagine this, okay? If you would have had a teacher as good as him that would look into your problems and try to help you out when you were growing up, that man sounds amazing. So, yeah, the Sensei, good man. I just am happy about his character, and definitely one of the big things I love about this series, besides, you know, the real world parts of it that really just remind you of school or different things that many people face, it's the fact that the characters are so good. I love the way they're written. They're not the most unique characters, like, okay, to get it point blank, they're not the most well-written characters, but there's something about the way they're so quirky and how they just move about and how they interact with everyone around them that makes it such a fascinating series and so entertaining. And it's a series also not trying to ride upon harem themes and also fan service. It's actually focusing more on the slice of life aspect, with also diving into these problems with these different girls that have, you know, different features from a normal human. And so far Demi-chan as a series, I really love it, and I'm going to continue watching this series. And this episode alone proves once again why I love this series so much. So yeah, overall, the episode had a lot of good moments in it. I mean, even the comedy moments. Oh my god, like let's talk about the comedy moments for a second. Hikari, oh my god, that little nom-nom, the nibble scene, like the nibble, which is... That's so cute. That was so fucking cute. Like, I gotta admit, that was adorable. That was completely adorable. Just that face with Hikari just nibbling on Yuki like that. I'm like, oh, that's so cute. It's so cute. It's so cute. When you see that scene, just the face, I was dying of laughter. As soon as I saw that face with her just nibbling all that, I just busted a gut because of how funny that scene looked. But yeah, Demi-chan, can't wait for the next episode. I can't wait for episode 6 to finally come out, because, I mean, this is a series I look forward to every single Saturday, and, you know, I just can't wait to see the next one. So let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below, and I love you all so much. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi.